Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and make yourself at home here. Just to get started, our focus here for this meetup is clearly around Agile and Lean. The thing about Agile and Lean is, as you know, that in the workplace now, in a lot of companies, not just high-tech, every organization is trying to be Agile. The latest survey for State of Agile that came out last year, 97% of companies said...
This is now starting. All attending in listen-only mode.
Right, started recording.
Okay. So 97% of organizations responded saying that they are practicing Agile in their company. And at the same time, thanks, Jim. So at the same time also, something like 84% are saying that they are less than mature and still experimenting in spots and things in their organization. So people are still fumbling around trying to make it work and all these things, right? And by the way, any of you having done Agile one way or the other, Scrum or any other way, you know that this is an evolving thing, not because you did it well once that you continue to do well. So the reason for all this is this, that the way every company now, when they develop any product or services, is now laden with technology or with software or sensors or something, right? And so there's a very big effort to make that happen. And in doing that, between doing well and not doing well, the difference is drastic and could be quite fatal to companies. If your teams cannot produce things fast enough, cannot produce productively enough, so you cost more, and you cannot adapt to the market quickly enough, any of these things, or your quality lags behind, that can be eventually the death of the company, right? So the stakes are very high. So what we are trying to do, David and I set this up so that we build right here a community of lifelong learners, Agile and Lean lifelong learners, and meaning that is yours. So we do hope that you keep coming and contribute and participate, ask questions and interact. We are putting this together for you, I mean for you to own. How do we run it? So the format, until we change it, and it's up to your request, the format is this. So we put this up, so anytime, if anybody has a job opening or something, you can post it. If you're looking for work, you can post it as well. So for tonight, the guest speaker tonight is going to, he was a senior executive at the Gartner Group. You all know the Gartner Group. And he's now managing principal at Agile Lean IT, so purely in this practice, and AI. He has advised, senior executives both in IT and in the business on, on Lean and Agile development, multiple industries. So tonight, I'm not going to steal the thunder here. Tonight, the topic is how to translate business strategies and business objectives into the Lean and Agile transformations to deliver to those goals. And he will share the techniques and experience. So please welcome Amit Nuri.
Good evening. Thank you for joining this evening. And let me start off by just a little bit of the intro about myself. As Hong mentioned, I've been in the consulting side of things for about 20 years or so. And before that, I was at Countrywide for about 5 years as the head of IT in the area of data center management, infrastructure support, and deployment of distributed systems, and in software development in the early 1980s. So I've been around a number of different industries, especially since I became a consultant about 20 years ago. I actually joined Gartner to run their consulting practice in the mid-90s. I started as the lead of their technical architecture practice, and from there we built a number of practices. Back in those days, the ERP was a big thing, to be able to put in new standardized systems to run your back office. And then eventually Y2K came about. That was a big deal for a long time during the latter parts of the century. And then for the last 18 years or so, a variety of projects. And that's what led me to now specialize in the areas of Lean and Agile. And as you heard from Hong, this has become a very, very timely and a high interest topic for many organizations, especially as the rate of competition and the pace of competition has increased with every industry. You could get competitors coming into your industry anytime without even any kind of notice. You know, people are now worried about, will Amazon be in my business if I'm distributing pharmacy, as an example? Or will I be buying my food from Amazon? Or how will I actually share my mother-in-law unit that I have using Airbnb? All kinds of concepts are emerging and disrupting many industries. So for a lot of the clients that I've been working with, the concept really has converged around how do I use Agile, how do I use Lean startup concepts, and how do I use the methods that have been proven in the past in how strategy should be developed to better form my strategies and better be able to approach the market. So that's basically the focus for my practice for the last 5 or 7 years, is to develop methodologies that can actually help organizations achieve that. This actually has led to a process by which we actually combine strategic planning for business with the concepts of business performance improvement through Lean methodologies, and also combining it with Agile and scaled Agile methods to be able to build systems. Because these days you can't really do much in business unless you're able to bring new products and solutions that are providing better ways of reaching out through different channels to your customer base. So that's what I'm going to be sharing with you. There's a lot of content here, but I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to interact. So I think questions are the best way to make sure that I'm focused on the concepts that you want to hear about. All of this is available via a link. This is a presentation. It's about 50 pages, so it's a lot of content. A lot of it I'll just spend a few seconds on, 30 seconds or so, just to tell you why it's here and how is it relevant to our discussion. But I'd like to make sure that you chime in with questions. I think interactive discussion is probably the best way to talk about the things that you care the most about. We'll have a chance to talk about what is the relationship between Lean and Agile, basic stuff, and how is Agile different than scaled Agile, and what are the players, what are the acronyms, the things that you want to hear, because I realize not everybody has had many years of Agile coming into the session. For some, it's brand new concepts. For others, they've been doing it for a while. They want to go to the next level of advancement in that topic or bring new capabilities to the organization that today is a challenge for them. So I'm happy to stop the topic and make sure it's focused on the things that you want to hear about. So please do feel free to chime in or stop me whenever you feel appropriate. As I mentioned, if you'd like to take notes, there's page numbers on these. So if there's something in here that you want to ask about, I'm available via email. You can always send me a quick note. Or if you want to write down a question that intrigued you, to just take down the page number as we get to that topic, write yourself a note, and then when you download the PDF, you'll be able to see the actual page and then come back to me or any of our folks here at Meetup, and then if you have a question, you can converse about it on email or other means appropriate. So let me get started. So this is about the LeanAgile Meetup itself. You already know about this. I'm mentioning it to you, so I won't spend any more time on it. I'm very excited to be a part of this. I'm the second speaker, I think, for your second Meetup. I'm looking forward to the future sessions that will be held here, and hopefully be able to contribute further to the topics that are of interest to this group. This is our agenda. We have, as you can see here, about an hour allocated to this discussion. But I understand that we want to keep it interactive. So if you have questions where we have to veer off and have a 5-minute side discussion about anything, we'll go a little bit beyond 8 o'clock. The intent is to make sure you have enough time to also interact and talk about questions, problems, topics that are of interest to you. So if you have a whole 25 or 30 minutes dedicated to making sure that you have an opportunity to talk to folks we want to hear about and talk about the specific topics. So that's our agenda. We'll finish around 9. I understand that doors close at 9:30. So probably between 9 and 9:30, we'll have to wrap up the process here. Okay, so what are we going to do in today's session. As I mentioned, what you're going to hear about is the highest level view of why this topic matters. And what we start with is business strategy. How do I think about it? How do I debate? How do I develop new ways of competing differently in my specific industry? How do I analyze the impact of digital technologies? How do I understand what can have a high impact in my specific business? So we'll start with that conversation. How do we actually start to put this on paper, and how do we have quick discussions about it rather than a 6-month to a year strategic planning process? What we find is organizations no longer have the patience or the energy or the time to spend 6 months to a year to create a 300-page plan. Those days are far gone. What they really want is to have a 15-minute conversation about what if Microsoft did this, or Amazon did that, or Google did this, and what is the impact, and how do I take advantage of this new technology? How will artificial intelligence change how I interact with this portion of my customers? Those are the kind of topics they want to talk about, and they want to do it quick. Nobody has 6-month time to analyze or dive deeper into the cost structure of the company. Very, very hard to do. So we want to talk about how do you do that very quickly, and how do you visualize the information so anybody can participate and quickly get to the points that are important. Which means we're going to have subject matter experts that will interact in maybe an hour or two and come up with strategic plans that can be experimented with. There is no longer that 2-year or 5-year plan. Those days are long gone. We have to learn to experiment. Whether you're Johnson & Johnson, Microsoft, Amazon, or GM, you have to find ways to quickly have these discussions and be able to come up with experiments that let you prove something and do something with it, or set it aside, called pivot in our terminology. We'll also talk about another concept that you may have heard about or are interested in, is the concept of value stream mapping. This is a concept that has been popularized with the trends that we saw in the 80s and 90s around quality management, or total quality management, or Walbridge Award. These concepts laid the foundation for what is referred to as the lean methodologies as a way to improve business performance. Value stream mapping is one of those tools in the tool bag of the lean consultant to be able to understand what the business does and how exactly it performs. Very difficult to do. How do I know I'm making money if I'm McKesson or GM? What are my value streams? Who benefits from it? What is my cost structure? How is it different than my competitor? How will Google change the way I compete in my industry? How do I understand and analyze that? So value stream mapping is a way for us to have those discussions, and I'll talk to you a little bit about what that is and how it can help inform our discussions around how to do something with my business to help achieve a certain outcome that I have in mind. And finally, linking all of this to your specific Agile projects. For many of you, it may be you just heard about an Agile project that's going on someplace with a small team, with 6 or 10 people, who's really happy and getting a lot of acknowledgement. But the company has already experimented 2 or 3 times to try to make it 4 teams or 5 teams, and it just craters and falls apart. And scaling Agile is one of the key challenges. If you were doing Agile, that's a common issue. Yeah, Agile is great for that small team and that unique personality, but not for the bigger project or the bigger portfolio. It doesn't work, it doesn't scale. So one of the key topics that's emerged is how do we scale these Agile methods? How can we do that if you have 5,000 people in IT? What if you have 50 development teams? What if you're trying to create the next big hardware project that would send somebody to the moon? How do I do that? How do I take advantage of Agile methodologies? Well, scaled Agile methods are trying to go after that problem. There are several out there, and there's several methodologies for promoting it. One of the most popular one that you'll hear more and more about is something called Scaled Agile Framework, SAFe, for short, SAFE. Actually, Hong actually has a course at UC Santa Cruz that talks about that and teaches folks on what SAFe is all about. In essence, that comes from Dean Leffingwell, who's again a long-time software engineer, software developer, who's been around methodologies for about 40 years or so. And he was looking for ways to improve upon the scalability of Agile methods. And he, in essence, started to combine several methodologies, such as Scrum, such as XP, and Lean, into a more scalable architecture. The methodology is free. You can actually go on the web and you can find it very easily. That's LeanAgileFramework.com. All the content is free, and the way the organization is actually able to make money off of that is by certifying individuals who are interested in it, and in essence, getting sponsors who are interested in doing consulting or becoming agile coaches or trainers on the concept. Very popular. They're probably twice as popular as other methodologies today, like LESS, or Nexus, or Spotify. There's a few other ones out there. Many of them try to take the working concepts of Agile and try to make it work at higher scale with higher number of teams. That's the basic concept. So those are the three topics we're going to spend time on. Please go ahead.
Could you write down what were the other...
Actually, it's in here. I was pointing them out to you. Actually, there's comparisons. There's a lot of detail in here. Hopefully, you'll like the content that I have for you here. There's both the names as well as comparisons of those methodologies. So you'll have it in your download.
Thank you.
All right.